Welcome to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast with your host, Jody Betty.
Hi, and welcome to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast. My name's Jody, and I'm your host. And today we are joined by Manic Artist, who I've seen your artwork, and it is absolutely fantastic. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much. Yep. I go by Manic on Twitter. I go by Manic Art. That's the handle. I used to go by Manic NFTs because I'm in the NFT space. But recently I changed it to Manic Art because I didn't want to brand myself just as an artist, like an NFT artist. I'm also
Right.
trying to build I'm trying to build my name up also, like just as an artist in general and as an artist in like the traditional art world as well. Cause I've gotten into like physical painting, I'd say in the
Oh,
last 2
nice.
years. Yeah. So I've been just like a full artist. I used to mainly for the longest just be a digital artist. Yeah, pretty much. So Yep.
That's cool. That's cool. So tell me a little bit about yourself, besides you
Yeah.
being an artist.
Yeah. So I have a crazy, I've had a crazy life, crazy story, crazy journey, whatnot. Um, I'm originally from Long Island, New York. Um, and I was born to two parents that weren't ready to have children. I have a brother and sister. I'm the oldest. My parents were both they were drug addicts. My mom was on pills, mainly, and
Okay.
alcohol. My dad was more coke, crack, and he was, like, he wouldn't come home for days, and he'd go to jail and all this stuff. And so seeing that, and then like them arguing and crazy fighting in the house, pretty traumatizing. Like, I remember
Yeah.
taking my sister in the closet with me and holding her because we were, she was really scared, and we shaking in the closet, and I was trying to comfort her. Like, bad memories like that. But fortunately, we had my mom's parents were stable, so we had our grandparents
Okay.
who were stable, and those are the ones that held the family together. If it wasn't for them, we would have been fucked. Excuse my language. So I looked up to my grandfather a lot. He was
No,
he
it's
was
okay.
an
It's okay.
yeah. So he was an artist. He passed away now, but he was an artist. He was an actor. He was an entrepreneur, and so I really looked up to him. He was more of a father figure to me, and so that stuff rubbed off on me. The artist stuff. So at a very young age, I wanted to be an actor, and so one day, I was just on a Twitter Spaces yesterday sharing my story, so it's pretty fresh in my mind. So I remember one day, me and my grandfather were in the car, and when there was an ad on the radio saying they were looking for like actors, models, and I was like, Grandpa, I want to do acting, and he was like, okay, cool. So we went to this thing. I got headshots. I went and did all this stuff. I ended up getting an agent, and so I started going on auditions and really doing my thing and getting some gigs. And so I was doing that. I went to like a performance art camp, and I was pursuing like the arts.
Whoa.
I was doing all right. I was troubled because my home life. So I was like at a very young age, I started smoking cigarettes, like drinking alcohol, but doing some positive stuff in between. But then once I hit like seventh grade, um, I mean, that's like a normal age if you're gonna start messing up. Like, that's usually when kids start to do that. Um, I became less interested in acting and wanted to hang out and like um and cut school. And so I ended up going to an institution like early. I ended up going to a drug rehab when I was I actually forgot to tell to them this yesterday in the Twitter space because I've had such a messed up life. There's so many parts that I actually sometimes forget. So the first rehab I went to, I was like 14 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And like a mental hospital, same thing, like 14 years old, because of my like behavior and and drugs. So I was in a few facilities very young in New York. I went to an alternative school with, like, of course, troubled kids, and that didn't. I was around other kids that, it's not good influence.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like getting in trouble. Um, but yeah, I mean, and then I was like always being creative and trying to do like music and stuff. Like, even though I was doing some bad stuff. Um, then when I was 15, I had a girlfriend. I had friends that I grew up with. Um, and then my grandparents, they ended up moving to Florida, and they told my family, they're like, you should come down here. It's beautiful here. It's cheaper, because New York was getting expensive. And so we ended
Mm-hmm.
up moving to Florida, which was devastating because I had to leave my girlfriend and all my friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how that is. And so I was really depressed. I remember just staying in my room in the new house and just with the shades down, and yeah, just really depressed, understandably. And then all of a sudden, like, I couldn't sleep. Like, it flipped from being depressed to, I didn't know it, but I started going into a manic state, like
Right.
hypomania.
Okay.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I didn't know. I didn't even know anything about any of that. So I became hypomanic, and then um my mom made a friend with this neighbor, and her daughter had bipolar. And so she picked up on symptoms, and she must have told my mom, like, I think your son might be having like hypo, whatever she said. I wasn't there to hear that part, but either way, she told my mom that I should go get evaluated at the hospital nearby where we lived. So she took me. I finally agreed to go, and then got evaluated, and then I came in, and then I guess shortly after I came in, I went into psychosis. And that's when, yeah, and then so I like lost touch with reality. And I remember thinking like I had special powers. The normal, if you know about psychosis, like, usually you think you're like, a lot of my psychosis, when I went into psychosis, thinking like I'm like the son of God, I have special powers, stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
as I go along in the story, like, the psychosis, it's gotten crazier. Yeah, so I was there for a few weeks. It took them a few weeks to get me stabilized. They told my family I had schizophrenia, because the psychosis, it's hard to diagnose it, because in psychosis you can't, it mimics schizophrenia.
Right.
So they told my family I had schizophrenia. But then, like, as the weeks went on, they got me stabilized, and so their final diagnosis was bipolar 1, which is the classic case of bipolar, which is the most severe form of it. So, and they also said schizoaffective, which is very similar to bipolar 1, but yeah, they pretty much said bipolar 1. So whatever, I got on medicine, and got out of there, and then just I made some friends in the neighborhood, and I was going to high school, and it was just like a rough transition, and yeah, so I got with, started smoking weed again, and you know my sister started dating a drug dealer.
Oh my gosh.
At first he was just selling weed, her boyfriend, and then he graduated to selling cocaine and probably crack, but definitely cocaine. He ended up being a big time coke dealer, which it eventually hurt me because I got hooked on coke too.
Right.
So she went down the wrong path, my sister, as well. I didn't even mention this in the Twitter Spaces yesterday. This is a huge part of the story too, because my sister had problems. Um, and my brother had gotten in trouble too. We all had major problems, but yeah.
Well,
So
like it sounds like all of you had like the same horrible trauma.
Yeah, like, my mom, she had her problems, and and she was she had her problems, and so she was so involved with, because my parents got divorced when I was 7 years old, and so she was like looking for love, and she was like doing coke and pills mainly. She was always
Hmm.
into pills. I mean, she still does pills, whatever, and alcohol. But I love her, and she smokes weed. But she, I accept her for who she is. She does. She's my mom. So, and I love her, and of course she's like a social worker. She's a social worker. That's how it is. Usually it's the social workers that are fucked up. Well, some of them. She's good though. She's a good social worker, but
Yeah.
only if they knew. Um, yeah. So, what was I gonna say? Yeah. So, after I got out of there, yeah, I started smoking weed, and yeah, and then it was like a revolving door. I was taking my medicine, wasn't taking my medicine, smoking weed, hanging out, you know, like doing art in between, doing music. I would go back and forth to New York because that was where I was from. So I'd here and there. Yeah, and so I'd be in and out of mental hospitals because mixing drugs and not taking medication, I'm gonna I'm gonna have issues. So I'd get really sometimes I would get very very manic to the point where it's like almost get to psychosis, and so my mom would be like, "You need to go into the hospital. It's gonna get worse." And she would like beg me and plead, "You need to go," and so I'd agree to go. And then, or sometimes it would go into full psychosis where I think I've even had to be like what they call Baker acted. I have to be brought by the police to there.
Right, right.
So I've been in mental hospitals a lot of times at a very young age. The first hospitalization, I was just 16 years old when it happened to me. When I had my first manic episode, which is very young, because a
Yes.
lot of people that get bipolar, they usually get it in college age, um, which sucks. It just sucks in general. But I always say that I'm actually happy I got it so young, because it usually takes a while to like accept the fact that you have this thing. It usually takes a while to find the right medication, and yeah. So I was in and out of mental hospitals, and then and no, if it wasn't a mental hospital, it was a drug rehab. So mental hospital, drug rehab, halfway house. It was just these institutions, and that
Yeah.
was I was becoming institutionalized, and I would see the same faces because you know that's just the way it is, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. So
That must have been a trauma in itself.
yeah, because a lot of times when you're in psychosis too, you're sometimes I mean, not sometimes, you think certain things that aren't true, and a lot of times, sometimes it's not scary, but sometimes it is scary. And what's scary is you believe what you're thinking is real, and everybody around you saying it's not real. Unless they're like professionals, they're not going to tell you what you're thinking is not real because they know better.
Right,
They know better, because when somebody's in a psychotic state and they fully believe what they're thinking, you don't tell them no, that's not true,
right.
because there's no way you can convince me it's not true. Like I fully believe like what I'm thinking. There's no way around it, and it's so odd. It's very interesting how the brain works, because when you come out of psychosis, you get stabilized. You're like, oh shit, like everything I was thinking wasn't even real. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah, that
It's a
is.
very crazy thing, and so I've gone into psychosis quite a bit in my life. So yeah, I've had to get shot up with Thorazine, Ativan. These needles, they stick it in your lower back, and then I've had to go into restraints and the padded room and roughed up by the big staff members, and deal with like patients that are violent, and
Wow.
I experienced this at a young age, and at a young age it was more scary because I was younger. And when I was a younger adult, and some of these people were older, and just it could be scary because some of them are like really really sick, like schizophrenic, and they're hearing voices, and you just never know what could happen. You have to kind of watch your
Mm-hmm.
back. It can be worse than jail or prison because
Yeah.
they don't know what they're doing. I mean, these
Yeah.
people, like, they'll attack like a 6'5" staff member. They don't know when the voices in their head tell them to attack, they'll do it. So there's a lot going on. So, but since I went into hospital so young,
Yeah.
16 years old, over the years, you get used to it. And like I was getting institutionalized, and there was a point when I started going there, like it was not a thing. Like I got comfortable. Like it sucked. It wasn't the best because you don't have your freedom. But like I was like, well, I like the breakfast. Like they have good, like sausage, biscuits, and gravy. Like, you know, so and then, you know, I remember one time when I was at the hospital, there was a psychologist, and he really saw potential in me, because I wanted to straighten up. I always wanted to straighten up. I didn't want to have a messed up life. I always wanted to either do music or acting, but my bipolar would always mess with me. It would always come back and mess with me, So, but this psychologist saw something in me and was like, listen, I have a friend. He's a counselor at this
Yeah.
rehab in Minnesota. He's like, it's a very good rehab. It's called Hanley Hazleton. And I was like, okay. And then I come to find out it's like a really nice, expensive freaking rehab, like celebrities rehab. Like Kurt Cobain went there. I don't know, all these celebrities. It was like very expensive. So I got a scholarship.
What?
I got literally a scholarship to go to drug rehab.
Crazy.
Yeah, so I went there. It was like a long-term rehab.
I've never heard of that, but that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I got a scholarship because I guess like since it's so many celebrities went there and rich people, they donate money. So for people that don't have the money, they can go. So I was able to
Oh,
get a
cool.
scholarship. So I went from Florida to Minnesota. It was a beautiful rehab. I had a great time. I learned a bunch. I really got a lot of therapy, learned a lot about myself. And one thing, that I got out of all the fucked up shit I've been through is like a lot of therapy. From a very young age. I mean, even when I was 7 years old, because that was my mom and dad got divorced. My mom, since she was all about therapy, she knew enough to get me into therapy because
Right.
because because she knew that the divorce was affecting me. So I got into therapy when I was 7, and
Wow.
I would because she was trying to straighten up too. So she was trying to get off drugs and alcohol. So I would go to AA and NA with her. So I was exposed to NA and AA at a very young age. She would at nighttime she would say the Serenity Prayer to me, when I was like going to bed, you know, like God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the
Yep.
things I can, wisdom to know the difference, which is a great. I like that. I'm not religious, like I said, but that prayer is good.
Yes.
I'm more of like I believe in the universe and like there's something, Um, but yeah, so I was in Minnesota and I did really well. Um, I got out. I think I went to a halfway house and I relapsed. Of
Uh,
course, this is my track record. I'll do good and I'll relapse, and this is common. It's just the way it is. When someone's ready, they'll be ready. So I had to hit my
yeah.
rock bottom. So same thing: mental hospital, drug rehab, relapse, go into a manic episode, hospital, blah blah blah. Same thing. But like work a job, do okay. People at the job love me. They think I'm doing great. It just is the same thing. Then And then I was in like my early 20s, and it was one weekend. I was doing a lot of coke, like a lot of coke. I was doing a lot of ecstasy. Like, I don't know what like went through my mind, but I just wasn't caring at all. I wasn't taking my medicine. I wasn't sleeping because I was so manic. And when you're so manic, you don't sleep anyway. You can't
Yeah.
sleep.
And then
So
cocaine, you don't
yeah,
sleep.
and coke and ecstasy
Yeah.
and weed, just like a freaking a a recipe for disaster. So yeah, it was a whole weekend of just craziness. I mean, it was my sister's boyfriend. He was supplying the coke and all the drugs, and and I would deliver drugs to get drugs. So I was
Right.
like, I was risking my freedom to get drugs, but to me it was cool because I was getting free drugs a lot. But so yeah, I was going crazy doing a lot of drugs, and I remember I ended up going home. My grandmother was at the house. I remember my heart was really beating fast, and I felt like something wasn't right. I was gonna have a heart attack, so I told my grandmother. And there's a lot of blurry parts to it because there's just a lot of blurry parts to
Yeah.
my whole life. But
Yeah.
I believe they called the ambulance, and I went to the emergency room. They checked me out, and at some point, I must have slipped into psychosis, and like the whole thing was I thought that I died. Like I was like telling everybody that I died, and I'm going to like purgatory, to be judged whether I'm going to go to heaven or hell. This was my what do you call it, delusion. That's what, yeah, the delusion, And so the whole time, so they transferred me from the emergency room to a mental hospital, like a short-term mental hospital, usually for a few days it is, to a few weeks. So during that time I was in my own land. Like, I had all these thoughts, like thinking patients were like angels, and like certain doctors were like demons. So it was scary, like especially some of the doctors and nurses. I thought they were demons, and so I get really paranoid, and it was very scary. I remember sometimes.
Sounds very scary.
Yeah, because it was a very spiritual thing, crazy. But I ended up being in there for 3 to 4 months. I don't remember, but it was 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
It was the max amount of time you could stay at a mental hospital, like a inpatient mental hospital. So I was there the max time, and they can only keep you there but so long because that's just the way it goes.
Right.
So then they told my family that I can't stay there anymore because and I can't go out into society the way I was, because if you're a danger to yourself or somebody else, or you're just not in the right mind, they can't put you out in a society like that. So the only option was to send me to the state hospital. So I went to this state hospital, called in Pembroke Pines in Miami. So yeah, I went to the state hospital. In my mind, from what I remember, I was thinking it was a good thing. I thought that it was like one step closer to going to heaven. This was
Right.
my whole,
Okay.
yeah, I was like, this is good. Little did I know, like I didn't know. So I went to the state hospital, and that was a whole experience, because that's no joke. Because if you know anything about state hospitals, that's the last stop. Like, there's people that have been in there for years that'll never get out. People that were in prison, and they go there because they don't want to. It's just really not good.
Yeah.
It's very violent. I mean, it's on the new Pembroke Pines State Hospital. It's if you go on YouTube and look it up, it's bad. Staff members being shady. Like, a lot of the mental hospitals, a lot of shady, crazy stuff that goes on.
I bet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like some of the staff members are they'll rape
Should be patients.
they'll rape girls that patients, and they'll say, "Oh, she's crazy. I didn't do any, I didn't do anything." I remember I've heard girl patients say stuff like that before.
Wow.
A lot they'll take advantage of patients because they could just say, "Oh, I didn't do that." They're hearing things or saw things.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there and I was messed up. I remember I had gained a lot of weight because a lot of these medications, the antipsychotic medications,
Yes.
they make you gain weight. They make you like they make you gain weight. So, and also I was on very strong antipsychotics. Like the old ones, they have like Haldol.
Oh
Um
my God.
I was on
That's a,
Haldol. I was on,
yeah.
yeah, so I was doing the Thorazine shuffle, if you know about that. I was literally drooling.
Jesus
I was
Christ.
sitting on the couch with all these other patients that are sitting there talking to themselves. Like all we do is just sit around all day and we just look forward to going outside to smoke cigarettes. That's what the highlight of the day is. I remember, patients would all of a sudden, for some reason, I don't know why, but a lot of times, like wherever I've been in the hospital, like a lot of mental patients just like to get naked and just walk around for some reason. I don't know.
Great.
I remember this one guy, Alex. He was this Haitian guy. He was a young guy. He would just strip butt naked and walk around, and staff would just let him just walk. They're like, "That's Alex. Just let him walk around."
Oh my
There was
gosh.
him. There was this guy Willie. He was this funny black dude. I think he was a crackhead. Before he came in, he just seemed like one, but he was really funny. And if he couldn't go out to smoke break, he would literally just eat cigarettes. He would
Oh
just
my
eat. He would eat his
gosh.
cigarettes, and I don't know how he did it because, like, I would throw up. I couldn't. I don't know.
I
Yeah,
know, right? Like,
yeah.
ugh.
He would just eat the whole. He'd just say, "I'm just eat, swallow a cigarette, eat them." So there's just a bunch of crazy people there, sick people.
Yeah.
And that was me too. I was completely not with it, but I was there, but I wasn't there. So I would, in my free time there, I would go to the staff members, the nurse station. I would always ask for like printer paper, and I would draw. I did a bunch of drawing there. They always have art therapy,
Right.
in the hospital, in mental hospitals, even drug rehab, they always have art therapy. So I would do a lot of drawing, and that was just one of my things I always did. Is just because it's something I always like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So after I was there for months, I had a great psychiatrist. They kept trying different medications. Um, yeah. So they got me on this medication. It's like the last resort medication. It's called Clozaril. Um, it's called Clozaril. It's no joke. But either way, this medication, it brought me back to reality. Thank God, because
Yeah.
it was 3 to 4 months gone in my own land. Then it was another like 5 months was gone. Like it was many months like in my own land. So I don't know. My family must have. Who knows what they thought? They must have been. They were obviously freaked out. They might have even thought that I was never coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But thank God I did, and I still have my mind. Obviously, I'm here talking with you. Sometimes my memory isn't always so good, and whatever. But whatever. I'm here today. Yeah. So I remember. Yeah. So they brought me back into reality, and when that happens, you really are aware. And then like now I'm in the state hospital, and I'm like, oh man, this now it really sucks.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Now it
that's
really
almost
sucks because now
worse.
I'm like finally I'm back in my right mind, and now I'm like, damn, like looking around, and I'm like, this sucks. Like now I'm really starting to pay attention to like all the people around me, and it's just really it's just way worse now that I'm back in reality and I'm in a state hospital. Because I was, even though when I was in the psychosis, I was still one of the more normal ones. You
Right,
know,
right.
I
Yeah.
was one of the like more normal ones. Even though I was so gone, like I wasn't a violent patient, you know. I never heard voices. I never saw things that weren't there. I only thought things that weren't true. You know, it was just delusions, you know. Um so yeah, so I got back. They got me starting to get stabilized. So then they were like, you can go on a home pass.
Right. Okay.
So I ended up going on a home pass, and I was like, I am not going back there in my mind, and I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself. I am gonna kill myself, so I don't have to go back there. And so I attempted suicide when I was on the home pass, and I was almost successful. I took an overdose of pills and went to the emergency room. They pumped my stomach with the charcoal drink, and I lived. Went back to the state hospital. I had to stay there even longer now because I did that. So then eventually I got out of there, and I got out of there. I think I went to a halfway house.
Oh my
Was do
God.
Yeah, I went to a halfway house because that's just the way it usually goes. You get out of drug rehab or wherever, you go into a halfway house, and then you get a job and you try to do the right thing. So I got into a halfway house. I was doing all right. Just trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my life? What do I want to be? I don't even know what I want to do. All I wanted to ever do was do like acting or music, and I barely graduated high school. So at one point I was like, I want to be a barber. I want to do, I was always trying to figure it out. I didn't know. All the things that I wanted to do were like really hard to do. And I wasn't in the right place. Like when I was in New York, that's where that stuff really is happening, you know? So yeah. I remember there's so much more to this. That's why I got to write a book or something.
Yes.
I want to write a book. I'm going to write a book at some point because there's so much more to it. I can't even. It would take too long. Um, so yeah, I went to a halfway house after the state hospital, and I relapsed again. After all that, I relapsed again, and then shortly after that, I was like, I guess I thought to myself, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, I'm getting older. I don't want to be like this. I see all these people, like you see all these people, some of these faces that I saw at the mental hospitals. You see them homeless, literally on the street, homeless, and they don't mind being at the mental hospital because they have shelter, they have food. But
Yes.
when
Yes.
they're not there, they're homeless.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, if I keep going like this, I'm gonna be like that. They say jails, institutions, and death. That's what's gonna happen when you live, like when you're doing drugs and living this lifestyle. Like that's what's gonna happen. And so yeah, so I was like, I'm just gonna go to my mom's house. And I went to my mom's house, and I just all like my whatever friends, so-called friends. I just secluded myself in my mom's house, and I would just go on the internet, and it was like MySpace at the time, and I was
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just like looking to like like hang out with some females and whatever. And then I ended up meeting my wife on MySpace. She was in
Oh,
Virginia.
really?
Yeah, she was in
What?
Virginia,
That's so
and
cool.
she was in Virginia, and I was, yep, she was in Virginia, and I was in Florida. And I happened to be, pretty, I would think I was like hypomanic, but I was on medication, and I was doing good, and I wasn't doing drugs. Um, yeah, so what do you call it? We were talking on the phone, and I didn't tell her, like, I didn't tell her I had bipolar because, that's a hard thing to tell somebody that you want to, be in a relationship with. Like, that could be like, somebody's gonna
Right.
be like, nah, I don't want to deal with that. Like, what? So I didn't say
Yeah.
anything. I didn't say anything about that, but I knew at some point, like, I mean, I didn't think about that until like, I'll tell you about that in a little bit. So yeah, I happened to be very manic when we were on the phone and talking, and so I was like, when you're in manic state, hypomanic, you're very impulsive, and yeah, like your self-esteem, grandiose, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Kanye West,
And you,
pretty much, right?
yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. So your self esteem goes up. You feel great. You feel outgoing. Like I actually kind of hypomanic state now, but I'm on medication and I've been taking trazodone to help me sleep because
Right, right.
I was lacking sleep for a while. Um, but I'm doing good. But yeah, so went to Virginia after my family's like, why? That's crazy. You're going to Virginia. You don't even know this girl and everything. But it was the best. It was the best decision I ever made. It really was. Went to Virginia and met her, and we've been together ever since.
Oh, how long ago was that?
This was 15 years ago.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. It's it's yeah, it's amazing. We have a son now, and yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It was just meant to be, you know.
Yeah.
And she just accepts me for who I am, and we've had our journey together, and she's like very helpful to me because it's hard to live with this thing, you know, because I don't always pick up on certain things that I'm going through. So she could be like, you know, and I'm also sometimes not good with medication. I'm running out of medication or just reminders to call the doctor, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so she could be like reminder and like push me to do certain things. So she's very helpful with that. Like, cause before her, I had my family helping with a lot of that.
Right.
Um, yeah, because even though somebody is on medication, it's not like you take medication, it's like a cure. No, it's
Yeah,
not.
no, for sure, for sure.
No, it's not at all. Like, especially bipolar one is severe. It's a severe mental illness. Like some people, they throw around the word bipolar like very loosely now. Like, oh, that's just bipolar. Everything's yeah. There's different. There's bipolar one, which is the most severe. There's bipolar two, which is not as severe. You know, then there's what do you call it? Unipolar cyclothymia. There's different forms of it, but bipolar
Mm-hmm.
one, it's yeah. I mean, as I'm explaining, like yeah, sometimes they misdiagnose it as schizoaffective schizophrenia because when the mania gets out of control, then the manic episode and goes into psychosis, like it can be very dangerous. And there's a lot of people that have bipolar that, unfortunately, a lot of people die from it
Yes.
because
Yeah.
either they kill themselves from depression, the suicide, or they think they can fly. Like literally, they could think they're like, oh, I have special powers, and like they could believe they something like that, you know, like,
Yeah.
and they'll
Yeah.
try to fly off a building or something like that, you know, or they'll
Yeah.
get hit by a car or something like. So it's a very tough thing to live with, and it messes with me, and I'm always gonna have it unless they have some kind of cure somehow. I don't know how that would happen, but either way, in the meantime, I take my medication, and I don't have a therapist now, but I should. I should probably have a therapist and at some point because I think that would be good. I think therapy is always good. But but yeah. So we ended up. So we lived in Virginia. Yeah, I was with her in Virginia. Then we moved back to Florida. We moved to Florida, lived there for a little while. We bounced around a lot, moving from Virginia to Florida to New Jersey because she was like, you should maybe you should pursue acting again, like when you were younger, you know, because I
Right.
know that's something you wanted to do. So we went to New Jersey, and so I got a job at a restaurant. I was like a food server
Mm-hmm.
at like a really nice restaurant in Manhattan, and I worked at a few different restaurants, and I ended up getting an agent, a manager for acting. Um, and I was going on auditions. I ended up doing a lot of background work, you know, extra work. Um, did that, and so I was making moves with that. I was really doing my thing with that because, like, my personality is when I really want to do something, like I really go after it. I'm a go getter, and I have a lot of passion,
Right. Right.
and I know that a lot of the in a way, like with the bipolar and everything, the mania it's like a double-edged sword because the mania can, especially like the hypomania, it can be a positive because of the energy you have. If you could somehow channel that into like a pursuit that you want to do, if you could put that energy into art or like, you know, something, because
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of great artists throughout history, a lot of great poets, writers, entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
scientists, like so many great people throughout history that have had these these things. So it's not like, so your life doesn't have to be over, now there's medications today that people can take to be able to live in society. Back in the day, people would be, they called them asylums back then. They would just be locked away for sometimes forever. And then in the hospitals back then, the treatments were really way worse.
Yeah,
Like
it's
they
awful to me.
way worse. Like some of the things I read about what they used to do are crazy. But yeah, so we were in New Jersey. I was pursuing the acting, music, and then my wife's dad he was in Virginia. He got cancer, and he got really sick. So we went back to Virginia. So I stopped the pursuing the acting and music and all that. Her dad died. And then now I'm like, what the hell do I do now? Like, I don't even know what to do as a career or job. I don't have any skills like that. So I ended up going on Craigslist, like looking for work, because all I did was, I could do labor work. I don't have like any kind of skills. So I ended up doing moving. I was doing the moving business. I was a mover for years. And I was good at what I did. Like, I was really good. I knew how to stack it. I was like a genius at stacking trucks. And it was like Tetris, people, like customers would be like,
Yeah, it really is. I've
damn,
moved
like
a
you can
lot.
stack a truck. They were like, you can stack a truck. And I was strong. So like I could lift crazy weight. So I was, and with whatever I do, I try to be the best at it. That's just
Right.
something I think my grandfather instilled in me. I remember he told me this, something like, whatever you do, try to be the best at it. He said, if you're a janitor, try to be the best damn janitor you could be. Something like that. And I think that actually stuck with me, because it is true. Like, whatever I do, I try to be the best at it. And so, yeah, like with whatever I do. So when it came to moving, like I remember, yeah, I would take it seriously. Like before we had to move, a lot of movers messed up. Like they're doing drugs, like they're partying all night, and then they come to a move and they're not on point. Like when I did a move, I'd make
Yeah.
sure I'd go to bed early at night, because moving season is in the summertime. And sometimes you have to do huge houses, multi bedrooms, apartments. You have 5 flights of steps. It's
Yeah.
brutal. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hot, in the summertime in Virginia. So yeah, so I did that, and I worked random jobs. And then it was like closer to 2020, 2021. I started I was interested in like making money online, trying to make different ways to make money online, because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't like doing moving and doing labor jobs. I always felt like I felt like I was better than that. I felt like I was destined for greatness. And like I always, at a very young age, I saw myself like being a successful actor. Like I remember when I was a kid, I would like practice my signature. Like I'm
Oh.
like, when I'm famous, I'm gonna
For your
like my signature was.
autographs.
I would literally practice writing my signature. So like when I'm famous, like having nice signature.
I love that.
I was very young. I was in elementary school doing that. So I always thought like I thought I was gonna be famous. I don't know. Um, yeah. So, yeah. So making money online, trying different ways to make money online. This was like 2020. Got into crypto. I got like Dogecoin and all these whatever different cryptos. Um, Ended up on this app called Discord.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this artist, this digital artist named Beeple, and I heard about this sale. He sold a piece of art, and it was an NFT, and it was like for $69 million, and I was like, what the hell? I
What
was
the
like, what is
hell
this
is right?
NFT shit? Well, I was like, what is this NFTs? And so, out of my curiosity and through like doing my research about, different ways to make money online, I had taught myself some digital art. When we were in Virginia, I started dabbling with digital art and making art from my friends, like in the music, like doing like album covers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was making art for other people. But when I heard about this NFT thing, I was like, this is something I think I might be able to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So maybe this is something I can do. So I was on Discord. Somebody in this Discord sent me an invite to Clubhouse, this app called Clubhouse. And I was like, all right, what the hell is this? But for some reason, I clicked on the link and I ended up on this app Clubhouse. When I got on Clubhouse, I saw all these rooms that said NFTs, NFTs. And I was like, okay. So I went into these rooms, would listen in. And there was this one room called NFT Tips. And yeah, that's where I got a lot of my knowledge. And so I got onto this website called OpenSea. And I registered, got signed up, put up some art. And I made a few sales. I was like, oh, wow. I actually could make some money maybe doing
That's
this.
awesome.
Yeah, so I did that. It wasn't much. I didn't know what I was doing. But then I was in a Clubhouse room. I got into this community and like I came into this NFT thing to try to be an artist to, maybe I could make a career out of this, make some money doing this because I don't want to do moving and I was
Mm-hmm.
junk removal and all this stuff that I was doing. It's not me. That's not me. Like I'm a
Right.
creative
It's
person.
just a
Like
job.
it's just a job, like just
Yeah.
over broke. Like that's what I call a job, is just over broke. Like, so I'm a creative person. I'm supposed to be doing art in some sense, you know? So yeah, so I was in this room, in this community, and I was like, okay, so I came into this space to be an artist, but how am I gonna ever like get anywhere? I was like, I have to introduce myself. But I was so like anxious and like through
Mm-hmm.
everything I've been through in my life, like I was like I was I was way better than I was back in the past years, but I still was broken because I just was.
Yeah.
Um but I was way better. So but then I was like, and I had gotten into personal development. At some point when I was interested in making money online, somebody introduced me to network marketing. And through network marketing, which wasn't for me, it just wasn't for me. But out of network marketing, I got introduced to personal development, and so I'm still into personal development today.
Oh, nice.
Like yeah, for example, like Tony Robbins, for
Yeah.
example, or like
Yeah.
Jim Rohn was the first one I listened to, which really got me. Yeah, so mindset is very important with stuff. So so I ended up introducing myself in this room, and for some reason, I just like it was my birthday. And I just introduced myself, and I just for some reason just opened up and started sharing like about myself and my story. I don't know, it was the first time I ever shared this shit with like strangers,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
did it. I just did it. I don't know why. And I started crying, and I think some of the people in the room were crying, and the room was quiet because people probably never heard a story like this. Like somebody losing touch with reality for that long, that's a big deal. Like, even though it really is, I know that, and I'm very lucky I didn't get stuck in that. Um, just stuff that I've been through has been shitty, but it made me who I am today. So when I shared my story, it was my birthday. There was some people in the room that collected art, and they were like, "Where's your art? Give me your link to your art." And I had one piece of art that I listed for a pretty high price because I was just like I didn't know what I didn't know what price to list it
Yeah.
at the
Yeah. What's
time.
a good price? I'm just
I
gonna
saw
go
some of these I saw
above.
some of the art in the NFT space. I saw these like some of these pieces selling for so much money. So I was like, all right, let me put it for this price. Who knows? So one of these pieces, this piece that I had, it sold for like over $2,000. And I
What?
was like, exactly, I was like, oh my God. So I was like, I remember I was jumping up and down. I was like, babe, I just made
Yeah.
$2,000.
Happy
She was like,
fucking
holy
birthday.
shit, So then I was like, oh shit. I'm like, this is actually possible. I'm like, this is possible. And everybody in the room was like, you need to share your story. They're like, you have something, you can help people by sharing your story.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so when I heard that, I actually took the advice. And so, Twitter Spaces didn't exist yet. It was Clubhouse that came out first. So after that, that was that. Then like months later, um, Twitter Spaces came out, and pretty much I think most people on Clubhouse went over to Twitter Spaces. Then we're all the NFT people. There was all these rooms on NFTs and all this and that. But then I started noticing some mental health spaces, like some mental health NFT spaces. And so I hopped in, listened in, and I was like, maybe this might be a good chance to introduce myself, maybe share my story, And so I did. And when I did this one time, the first time after I shared my story, I didn't go in depth like this. I think this today this is the most in depth I've ever went, actually.
Oh, I
I
appreciate
think
that.
huh?
I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I was in this Twitter space and I shared my story, and this guy, he reached out to me after, and he was like, I would love to have you on my podcast. It's a mental health podcast. And this was in 2021. And I have this podcast in my link tree right now still. Which is cool because I have a follow-up that happened not too long ago, which is cool to hear from 2021 to the recent
Yes.
one. It's
Yep.
cool to hear the difference. Um, yeah, so I did that, and yeah, and so I think I know through me sharing my story, when other people can hear this, it can help somebody.
Yes,
It can
absolutely.
help somebody
Yep.
because when I was going through my worst times, you there's times you think, oh damn, my life is over, like, and I remember people telling me like, hey, this is just the way humans work. They'll be like, this celebrity has bipolar. Look at them, they're successful.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually that's how people are. So I'm like, they're like, yeah, and then they killed themselves. Like, look, Kurt Cobain, like all these
Yeah.
people, um, yeah. So, but I went through all that stuff, and now I'm good. Like, I have a wife, I have a son. Like, I never ever would have thought. I never thought I was gonna get married and have kids. Like, I never thought that. I never thought I would be a professional artist. Like, I'm not rich at all. Like, financially rich. I try to. It's a hustle. Selling your art. Because
Hmm.
art is not a need. People don't need art. It's more of like a want. So
No, the
it's just a
stuff that
matter
I've
of.
seen of yours online is fucking incredible. Like, I
Thank you.
absolutely love it. Without a doubt, I would buy a piece and put it on my wall.
Thank you. Yeah, the physical art is something newer. I've been doing digital art longer, but I'm trying to like get my craft better with my physical art. Because I love physical art because it's physical.
Hmm.
And I can't, like, with digital art you could like edit, undo.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I like the physical art as well. So yeah, I mean, I've been in the NFT space for 4 years, and it's been a crazy journey. It's a lot of ups and downs, and I've had to grind it out to get to where I'm at right now. And I have so much for longer to, so much further to go. There's always room for growth, you
Yes.
know. But I have built like a somewhat of a name in the space, I would say. A lot of big, like, some of the biggest collectors in the NFT space have collected from me.
That's
Um,
so cool, eh?
yeah, yeah. I
What a
mean,
feeling of accomplishment, especially with all that you've been through.
it's really freaking amazing. I'm very proud of myself. My wife is proud of me. My son's proud of me. Yeah, I mean, I get emotional, like I really do, because
Christ,
like
I
I
hardly
never.
know you, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Um, yeah, I mean, I grinded my face off to get where I'm at. Like, I've been in hundreds of Twitter spaces, hundreds, just trying to get my name out there. Like, I'm Manic. Like, look at me, look at my art. Like, hear me. Like, like just grinding because like I want to make it. Like, I want to give my wife and son like a better life. We've
Right.
struggled a lot, and we
Yeah.
still struggle. Like, like we're like, you know, yeah, it's every month it's like paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
Some months will be okay. Like, I made some really great sales and art sales like the past few months, and it's such a blessing. And like I'm on Super Rare, that's like the top website for artists in the NFT space, and that's a blessing to have been on there. And it took a lot of Twitter spaces to get on there.
Wow,
Like I
that's
said,
amazing.
I was in hundreds of Twitter spaces introducing myself, networking, and I ended up in this Twitter space. And in this Twitter space, there was a listener in the audience, and he has a company called Monogramma. And anyway, he reached out to me, and then like 2 weeks later, I'm on Super Rare, and I make a sale fast, and yes, and then so yeah, I've been on Super Rare, and once I got on Super Rare, I started making money that I've never made before. Like,
What? That's so cool.
yeah, I started making money like I had never made before, and it's just like, remember my son needed a bed. I was able to get him a bed, like, and like I was doing. There was months in the space. A lot of people know that have known me since the beginning. I was doing junk removal, like, and a lot of the junk removal I would do, like, it was. I was a contractor through this company, and like a lot of times I would have to go to restaurants and pick up food, like bags of food, like from restaurants that have like an overflow of trash, and I would put it on the truck, and like it's like leaking food, and
Oh God, yeah.
it's a summertime, and it like smells, and then go in the landfill, it smells at the
Yeah.
landfill, and so like, but I have the Twitter spaces going on in the back while I'm working, and I'm grinding in the NFT space while I'm doing junk removal. Like, I'm in the truck throwing trash off the truck, literally. It's disgusting, but I literally like throwing up off the side of my truck because of the smell of the junk, the trash of the food. And I mean, yeah, so like it was pretty bad. But there's people that have way worse jobs. There's people that have way worse. I think of like ice truckers, like they have to drive
Oh
on the
my
ice.
God, right? I'm not
Yeah,
driving
yeah. So
across a
like,
lake.
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. So all this stuff I went through, and all the shitty jobs and everything, it just made me very grateful, thankful, appreciative for all the good stuff. It
Right.
made me very non-judgmental. And a lot of stuff doesn't really bother me. A lot of stuff rolls off my shoulders because all the places I've been in situations, all the situations I've been in, it's nothing. It's, you know
Yes.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when you've been
Yeah,
in all
man,
these,
you survived the worst of it already, so
yeah. So it's just like, I hear people complaining, and I'm like, like, yeah, I just let a lot of stuff go off my shoulders. And then all the therapy I've had over the years, ever since a young kid, whether you realize it or not, like that stuff goes into that, it gets in your head.
hmm
When in NA and AA and all these places, all the therapy, and from drug rehabs and hospitals that have all this group therapy, like, it gets in your head. So even for somebody that's never had any problems, like therapy and personal development, it's so good.
yeah.
It's so good for you. And I think it's between all the therapy, and then also having been pursuing acting and music and going on auditions, and like doing that, you hear so many no's and rejections that it it like I could take rejection. It's fine, like, because I know eventually I'll get a yes if I keep
Right.
working on my craft and getting better. There's a saying, get so good they can't ignore you. And so that's something I kept in my head this whole time in this space, because I've had other artists say to me, like, I don't understand, like, I feel like you're being slept on. Like, I don't understand, like I feel like you're being looked over. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, I don't know. But I was like, all right, let's let people sleep on me, and that's fine. My art, I used to sell my art was so cheap in the beginning, but sometimes I gave a lot of art I gave away for free too. And there was times in the beginning I couldn't even give away my art for free. And that made me feel really bad. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
people don't even want my art for free.
Yeah, you don't want it
I
for
was
free.
like,
What the
damn, like,
fuck?
but but then, so I was trying to like sell my, like, in the NFT space in 2021, there was all these rooms. They called them shill spaces where artists would come in and, try to sell their art, and so all these artists, we're all going in the rooms trying to sell our art. I got advice from a guy, another artist, and he was like, stop doing that. He's like, stop trying to like chase the money. He's like, when you chase money, it goes away from you. He was like, take that energy and focus it on your art. And so I took the advice and I focused on my art, and I really took his advice and I really focused on my art, and my art improved a lot. And I kept that quote in my mind, get so good they can't ignore you.
Mm-hmm.
And so my art improved. I tried not to focus on the money, even though I needed the money. I was doing junk removal and any kind of money I can get to support my family. I mean, we almost got evicted tons of times. I mean, we're still on food stamps. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, we had to get money from, like church to like to
Yeah.
help us with
Yeah. Yeah.
rent.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I freaking people don't know, some artists in the space, like they have no, some of these people just can't even, I don't think they could even comprehend or understand, sympathize, or whatever the word is, because a lot of people have money in the space, and
Yes.
some artists, they'll come into the space, they're already financially great,
Yeah.
and that's awesome. That I feel I'm happy for them, and then they come into the space and they're like, they blow up and they're huge too, and then they're making all this money in the space, and then this is how I was thinking a while back. I'm like, man, I'm over here doing junk removal, not making barely any money, and showing up grinding, and I can't even give away my art. I'm like, damn, and like, what am I doing wrong? And I compare myself to other artists, and then I have bipolar, and my bipolar is messing with me, and so I felt a whole bunch of stress. But I just took all the frustration and like bad feelings. I just channeled it and put it into my art just
I
to get
love
better. I'm
that.
like, I'm gonna get fucking better. I'm gonna get so good they can't ignore me.
Yep.
So like, even still to this day, I sit in my chair for hours, and my wife has to pry me out of the chair. She's like, you need to walk around. It's not healthy. This is not healthy. You can't just. It's not healthy to sit so long. Like, you need to get up and walk around.
Yeah. Yeah. Move your legs already.
Yeah, because I love making art, and I get so into what I'm doing that I love making art so much, like, I would do it for free. I really would. But I have to value my art. I have to value my time and effort, and I got to take care of my family.
Yeah.
And if I sell my art for so cheap, then other people aren't going to value my art.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that's something I learned along the way too, is that you got to price your art right. Because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of artists, they'll price their stuff too cheap. And then other people think it's just not good.
Right.
So that's
Right.
when eventually, years later, I started, especially when I got into Super Rare, the exclusive website. I was like, all right, I sold my art I gave away art. I sold my art cheap way too long. Time to fucking raise the prices.
Yeah.
Now, all the people that slept on me, now it's changed. Now my price went up. And so when I raised my prices, got on Super Rare, I started making sales. And so it just took a long time to like grow and believe in myself, and it just happened over the years, from people collecting from me and telling me that, you're amazing, your art's amazing, like, I really respect you and all this stuff. Like, I've grown so much being an artist in the NFT space. I think some people come into this space into the NFT space for this. Everybody comes in for their own reasons, but for me, I came in to be an artist, and that's from the beginning. I came into to be an artist, and that's why I'm still here. And like, it's changed me. Even if the whole NFT space for some reason just shut down, it went away for some reason. Like, it changed me. It changed me. It just changed
Right.
me.
Yeah.
And I would still do art. Obviously, I was doing art before. I just wasn't doing it like I was doing it for other people, what they wanted to do. But I would still do art, and I would still do my physical art, and I just want to make it as an artist. So I'm gonna keep doing my thing, and keep going on podcasts, sharing my story. And I figure through going on podcasts, I can help people by sharing my story, because other people that are going through it can hear my story. It can give them hope. Not only
Yes.
that, maybe there's somebody's a family member hears it, and their son or daughter, they're in the mental hospital right now, and they're in psychosis, and they're like freaked out because, oh my god, my daughter and son, I don't know what's going on with them. They're like, oh my god, I just heard this guy, and he seems like he's doing great. Like, so it's possible.
Yes. Yeah. It's
So
inspirational, right?
yeah, and at the same time, like, I'm mentioning my art, and so maybe somebody hears, like, they could hear like, oh, let me check out his art, and so it's like helping, and at the same time letting people know I'm an artist. So I think it's a great thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's taking something that was very horrible, a horrible story, a horrible experience, and actually it turned out to be something that can be really beautiful.
Well, yeah, that's what you're doing, right? You took all your trauma and pain and anger and everything and threw it into something that creates something incredible, like something absolutely stunning. And when we're done here, I want you to send me the link, any links that you have to your art so I can post them
Mhm.
with show notes and stuff. And anytime you do something and you want me to repost it, man, just send it to me. I will happily post your art because I'm a big fan. I'm a really big fan.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I have some physical art. Oops, some physical art for sale, but I haven't gotten to sell any physical art yet. But
But
I
still,
know I
your
will at some
digital
point.
work is still amazing, right? Like, it's so incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I love the digital art. You could do so much interesting stuff with it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all self-taught. No one. I didn't go to school for any of this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but I had drive and such a interest in it that I just taught myself. YouTube University.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
YouTube University, and just dabbling, pressing buttons, and seeing what works. And yeah, but yeah.
So awesome, man. That's so awesome. I'm so super proud of you. I think your story is incredible. You have been through, the ringer and back multiple times and still, you know, you are an amazing person. You're an amazing husband. You're an amazing dad. You're an incredible artist. You're strong and resilient, and that speaks so much. And it also comes out through your art. So it's like, your story and your art are so intertwined. And that's, I think, what I love about it, because that's the passion, right? You have true artistic passion, and you were able to take these horrible things and then make something beautiful at the end that can help your family, but again, it helps you, it helps everybody. Like, and it's so inspiring. And I am so glad that we, got to have this conversation, because like I don't even think I mean, we're just recent acquaintances, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we just got
Mm-hmm.
introduced not too long ago. So I'm thrilled, and I'm so glad that you had the time and wanted to come on the podcast.
Of
And
course.
I would absolutely love to do another one in a couple of months, and we'll do an update.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Switch. Yeah, he's great.
Switch, I love Switch. He's such a great guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would host spaces every once in a while, and he would pop in, and see, that's the thing is, like, once I decided to get out of my comfort zone, that's when things changed.
Yes.
The if I'd ever got out of my comfort zone and introduced myself that first time on Clubhouse, who knows? I don't know where I'd be. But
Yeah,
I
there's so much
faced my
strength in
fear.
being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. And
Hmm.
I Yeah, and so I'm glad I did. And so that's like when I hosted my first space, I was freaked out. I was like, oh my God, like, but through me opening up a space, like I met Switch, I met other people in the space, and and some people not even in the NFT space. He just, and going into all these Twitter spaces and being vulnerable and introducing myself and letting people know like my story. And the thing is, it's gotten way easier to share my story because I've done it so many times. But
Hmm.
there is a stigma. There is, it's a known thing. There is a stigma with mental illness, and it's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. But I think it's definitely gotten way better,
Yes. Yep.
compared to what it used to be. But that's another thing is through me sharing my story, it helps with that too, like breaking the stigma. So
Yep.
yeah, so no, I love doing this. It's funny how I fell into it with Clubhouse. I shared it my story and they said need to do it, keep sharing it, and I did. And so let's see, maybe TED Talks one day.
Yeah,
You never
absolutely.
know.
Why not? Like it is such a beautiful story and it's just it'll give so many people like the courage and say like if this guy can overcome all that, then maybe I can do that too, you know?
Exactly,
Maybe I can
exactly. And
overcome.
I Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yep.
Yeah, so he follows me on Twitter, and I messaged him because he has a huge platform and he's all about like he's into personal development and being positive and all this stuff. And I felt like it's me going on and talking with him would be a good thing, you know. But he hasn't responded. I think at some point I'll be able to do it, but that would be amazing because I've been
Yeah.
following Gary V for a long time, like earlier in his his journey, whatever.
Right, right.
Because he's into the NFT space, and especially in
Hmm.
2021 he was. But yeah.
That's crazy. I was the same thing when I started my space. I do just a mental health check-in, or sometimes we do topics and stuff. But I do it on Monday nights. And when I first started my first one, I was just like, "Who wants to listen to me? What am I going to say? Ah, what if nobody comes? Ah!" But it turned out all right, and we got a good little community family thing going on there now. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very helpful for me as someone with mental health issues and being able to, um, I'm also doing a coaching course. I've done enough therapy. I've been therapied in and out like you have, like just like, wow, enough therapy, right? So I
Yeah.
wanted to turn that around and I was like, okay, I'm giving back so much for free that I'm not valuing my time. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, okay, if I go through the coaching course and get that done, and then I can not charge everybody. I will definitely have a sliding scale because I'm not
Yeah.
there to make money, but I do need to also value and respect my own time like you do, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so
Mm-hmm.
cool. Thank you so much, my friend. It was so nice to meet you. I'm so
Likewise.
glad you came on and shared, and let's keep in touch. If you need anything ever,
Absolutely.
my DMs are always open, eh?
Okay.
Okay, my
Awesome.
friend, we'll talk soon.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast with your host, Jody Betty. If you enjoyed today's show, please give it a like and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. And if you appreciate the work I do, why not buy me a coffee? Details in the show notes. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Dorian Kent and produced by Jody Betty and Dorian Kent. This has been a Raw and Open production.